Homes were left without air conditioning during some of the hottest days of the year. Businesses were forced to suspend operations. Families had routines interrupted, appointments delayed, and plans canceled. For every person who was affected, I want to begin by offering my sincere apology. Electricity is not a luxury. It is an essential service that powers our homes, supports our hospitals, keeps our businesses operating, protects our food supply, and enables our economy to function. When that service is interrupted, we understand the frustration, the inconvenience, and the anxiety that people experience. As Minister of Energy, Utilities, and Aviation, I also recognize that the public expects more than an apology. You expect clear information, honest communication, and confidence that your government is taking every reasonable step to prevent similar events in the future. That is our responsibility to the Bahamian people. While no government can prevent a lightning strike, we are responsible for how we prepare, how we respond, how we communicate, and how we continuously improve our electricity system. That responsibility is one I take seriously, and it is a commitment shared by the government, the board, management, and every employee of Bahamas Power and Light. I also want to recognize the extraordinary efforts of the men and women of BPL. Many of our engineers, technicians, operators, and field crews remained on duty for more than 16 consecutive hours under difficult and demanding conditions. They worked through the day and into the night, not because they were asked to, but because they understood that every minute without electricity affected thousands of Bahamians. To those employees and their families, I offer my sincere thanks. The event that occurred was both significant and highly unusual. On Sunday, an exceptionally powerful lightning strike directly impacted critical equipment at the Blue Hills Power Station. The strike damaged the point where electricity generated by the power station is transferred safely onto the national transmission network. It is important that the Bahamian people understand exactly what happened. Contrary to some reports, the Bahamas did not lose its ability to generate electricity. Our generating units remained capable of producing power, nor did the National Transmission and Distribution Network itself suffer a system-wide failure. The damage occurred at the critical interface between those two systems, the point where generation and the transmission network must operate together before electricity can flow safely to homes and businesses across New Providence. I often describe this as a handshake. Our generating stations produce the electricity. Our transmission network delivers that electricity to the communities we serve. Before power can flow, those two systems must synchronize perfectly. The lightning strike interrupted that synchronization. Before engineers could reconnect the system, they first had to inspect damaged equipment, verify it was safe to energize, and carefully restore the connection without creating additional damage or placing employees or the public at risk. Safety is never an obstacle to restoration. Safety is the first step in restoration. Once those conditions were verified, restoration began immediately and continued without interruption until service was returned to our customers. Could this lightning strike have been prevented? No. Could any utility guarantee that a force majeure event of this nature would never occur? No. What we can do And what we must do is continue strengthening the resilience of our electricity system, improve our operational response, and communicate with greater speed, frequency, and transparency whenever major incidents occur. One of the lessons from this event is that communication during emergencies must be even better. The public deserves timely, factual updates, even while restoration efforts are still underway. We recognize that expectation, and we are already reviewing how information is shared during major events so that Bahamians remain informed from the beginning of an incident until the last customer has been restored. Events such as this remind us that the work of modernizing our electricity system is not theoretical, it is essential. Every investment we are making in stronger transmission infrastructure, modern substations, digital control systems, utility-scale renewable energy, battery storage, and cleaner generation is designed to build a system that is more resilient, more reliable, and better prepared to withstand the challenges of the future. That work is already underway. And today I want to share with the Bahamian people not only what happened over the past several days, but where we are going as a country and why these investments matter to every household and every business. As Minister with responsibility for energy, I wish to speak to the issue of electricity bills and the introduction of LNG. One of the biggest challenges we face during this period of energy reform is helping all of us better understand how electricity is made, how it works, and what determines our monthly bill. Many people naturally assume that if their electricity bill has increased, BPL must have increased its rates or the fuel cost has gone up. That is not what has happened. The base electricity rate has not changed, and the fuel charge has remained stable. What has changed for numerous households is the amount of electricity being used during one of the hottest summers we have experienced in recent years. Last June, we experienced only a handful of days where temperatures exceeded 90 degrees. This year, we experienced nearly 3 weeks of temperatures above 90 degrees in June. When temperatures rise, our homes absorb more heat. Air conditioners work longer, refrigerators more frequently, deep freezers cycle more often. Every appliance that cools something must work harder. The hotter it is outside, the harder those appliances must work to remove that heat from inside your home. The very definition of work is power times time. That means more electricity is consumed. This year, the extreme heat arrived so early that BPL recorded its annual system peak approximately 3 months earlier than it normally would. That tells us something very important about our current state. Climate change is changing everything we know about the weather and how it impacts our lives. Energy demand is changing our electricity system to evolve to meet those new realities. When you look at your monthly bill, you will see a graph comparing this month's electricity usage to last month's electricity. There is a cost to electricity. Homes remain something we can all influence together. There are simple things every household can do to be full so it maintains temperature more efficiently. Close curtains or boost the amount of heat entering your home. Set your thermostat around 78 degrees. Lowering it to 68 degrees does not cool your home faster. It simply forces your air conditioner to work harder for longer. Small changes like these can bring a meaningful difference over the course of our entire summer. And while consumers can reduce their electricity use, the government has a responsibility to lower the per unit cost of electricity. That is exactly what our energy reforms are designed to achieve. On Monday, We natural gas LNG terminal. Simply put, it is converted back into gas and used to generate electricity. Natural gas burns cleaner than heavy fuel oil and diesel, which have powered much of our system for decades. It produces less emissions, it requires less maintenance, and perhaps most importantly for every Bahamian family, it costs $100 million in annual fuel savings. Those savings are expected to flow directly through the fuel component of your electricity bill. At the same time, LNG helps BPL reduce its dependence on expensive temporary rental generation, allowing more resources to be invested in strengthening the electricity system itself. But LNG is only one part of our strategy. The future of electricity in the Bahamas is not built on a single technology. It is built on balance. By the end of this transformation, New Providence will be supported by approximately 172 megawatts of LNG generation, utility scale solar already under construction, battery energy storage, modern substations, upgraded transmission infrastructure, and existing generation working together as one integrated system. This balanced energy portfolio gives us greater reliability, greater resilience, lower emissions, and stronger energy security. No single fuel can do everything. No single technology can do everything. But together, they create a stronger national grid. Across New Providence, utility-scale solar projects are already underway. Land has been cleared, sites are prepared, equipment is arriving, and construction is progressing, with the first power currently on schedule for Q1 next year, 2027. At the same time, the modernization of our transmission and distribution networks continues. New substations, upgraded protection systems, intelligent switching technology, and digital controls are moving through final end-to-end testing, which is expected to be completed by the end of July. We are rebuilding our electricity system while continuing to provide electricity to an entire nation. That is much like renovating your home while continuing to live in it. It is complex, it is challenging, but it is necessary. One of the things that makes the Bahamas unique is that we have one of the most geographically dispersed electricity system in the region. We provide electricity to communities spread across hundreds of islands and keys, yet whether you live in New Providence, Bimini, Long Island, or the Berry Islands, you pay the same national electricity tariff. That reflects our belief that access to affordable electricity should not depend on where you live. It is a pledge to fairness that we intend to preserve. By 2027, Bahamians will begin seeing the true results of the largest modernization of our electricity system in generations in the history of our country. A cleaner generation fleet that will yield lower fuel costs with the addition of both renewables and LNG. Together, these investments will create a stronger, smarter, more resilient electricity system, one built to meet the demands of a changing climate and serve future generations. Allow me to close with one final point. There are two parts to every electricity bill. The first is cost of producing electricity, and that is the government's responsibility. Our responsibility is to modernize our generation fleet, diversify our fuel sources, strengthen the transmission network, invest in renewable energy, and deploy the technologies that reduce the cost of producing every kilowatt hour delivered to your home or business. That is exactly what we are doing. The second part is how much electricity each of us uses. No government can decide when you turn on your appliances, how long or how high you set the thermostat, or how efficiently your home operates. But we can ensure that every Bahamian has the information needed to make informed decisions that reduce energy consumption without sacrificing comfort. Knowledge is power. And that is the partnership we are building with all of you. The Bahamas is undertaking the most significant transformation of its electricity sector in a generation. Cleaner fuels, smarter infrastructure, stronger transmission systems, modern technology, greater resilience, lowering operating costs, and a national grid designed not only to meet today's demands, but to support the future growth and prosperity of our country. This transformation will not happen overnight, but it is happening. The work is underway. The investments are being made. The results will flow. Again, I thank the media for being here with us today. I thank the people of the Bahamas for their support and patience. And I'll be able to take 1 or 2 questions, and then I will allow my C-suite and board to take the remainder. Thank you.
2 questions, please, from members of the press.
Ms. Mom, very quickly, you said the transformation will not happen overnight. Now, I believe it was 3 weeks ago, we joined you at the substation at Big Pond, and you said 5 weeks later, it will be pretty much completed as it relates to that and critical upgrades. Are we still on track for that, or are you able to give assurances that we're still on track for that?
So on Monday morning, every Monday morning, we have an Energy Committee meeting, and I was advised by the team, Bahamas Grid Company, that we are presently in the testing phase of the foundational work, which means the bulk of the construction part of that work has been completed, and now they are testing all of the substations that has been built to ensure that it is ready to take on the load and transmit it throughout. And so I believe they are targeting for around August, but that should fall in line with the timelines that we were quoted based on the time that we lost initially.
Minister, though Sunday was no doubt torturous, I think a point of frustration for many people was a series of power outages that happened in various areas, especially Western New Providence, Family Islands leading up to that. What is the state of electricity capacity today, and what assurances can you give a frustrated public that maybe the remaining summer months will be better?
Well, what we are doing is ensuring that we ready our system, and we have been doing that from the beginning of the year. BPL has a summer readiness program that they carry out throughout the entire Bahamas, where they go and they visit all of our substations. We ensure that we have the generation capacity, and we work on our transmission and distribution systems across the country to make sure it can transmit and distribute. Some of the challenges that we saw over the past few weeks, when I spoke to the media then, was as a result of our system being in an abnormal state, simply because we were carrying out the foundational work. So some of our circuits that we normally would have online was not online, but that was because we don't naturally see the system peak in May in terms of the extreme heat wave that we are experiencing happening in May. We normally would see system peak in September. So we would have been okay to carry out those works, except for its unusual weather this year. We are hoping that we continue to make strides and bring everything back online so that we could see the flow of the load throughout all of the available circuits and be able to continue to support the transmission and distribution. As it relates to generation capacity, we have the generation capacity. Transmitting it and distributing it was where you would have seen some of the challenges with some faults on the system or overloading because of the extreme heat. And so that's what we're working towards, continuing to be sure that we are checking areas and addressing matters as they come up, and working collaboratively with Bahamas Grid Company to make sure that we're able to ensure a smoother summer and avoid some of the disruption that we've seen previously. Okay, thank you.
Are there further questions?
Really lovely. So, we obviously do know that, thank you, we obviously do know that BPL is cash strapped, and so what is being done to be able to source up revenue for BPL? And while I'm asking that, I recall at one point the board of directors submitted a proposal to cabinet to introduce a late fee, and that was rejected. Is that on the table again?
Repeat the question you said.
Yes, ma'am. So again, we know BPL is cash strapped, right? What's being done to pretty much up the revenue?
So actually, our deputy chair is here. We're doing several things to up the revenue. You would have noted, Minister had mentioned specifically our grid modernization. So back in December, we would have, the IDB gave us a loan of $90 million. One of the things that I thought it was really important that Minister mentioned was how do we educate consumers on how to control their usage or how to really monitor their usage and plan for their usage. A part of the advanced metering infrastructure will actually put the control in the hands of consumers. Consumers will be able to log into their account and in real time be able to see their usage. If they want to set up a budget, it would actually give them budget alerts. I would explain to them the KWH that they're using on a per monthly basis. So those are some of the things. So being able to go out to market and actually receive funds in order to upgrade some of the systems. So those are some of the ways. We also have a transformation office that we've spoken about several times, and the transformation office has a lever system that we are being managed by, and those levers really speak to the efficiency of the organization. One of the things that we talked about was supply chain. We actually renegotiated a lot of rates with our current suppliers. These are long-term suppliers where we were able to go in and secure up to a 20% discount in some places. So we know that BPL is a big animal, and you know how they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so those are some of the things that we're doing. We're actually taking the steps to make sure that we eat the elephant one bite at a time. And the transformation office is being very successful. Our key performance indices are making sure that we stay on track. We have a goal in each one of those sectors to make sure that we're reducing costs, improving efficiency where we can.
What about late fee? Right, 'cause is that on the table? Because you know there's been a concern about persons not paying their bills on time. Could a fee be imposed to deal with that issue?
I have not seen that taken to cabinet as of yet. We have not taken it to cabinet as of yet, so I can't speak to that.
I know that you had mentioned, well, the minister had mentioned the LNG terminal that's gonna have the groundbreaking soon. Is there any update on the pipeline that was supposed to go from, I think, Awaki to the Blue Hills power plant?
Yes, that's still on track. The pipeline is a dual fuel pipeline. Right now, one of the things, we have an owner's engineer. I'm sure some of you may have heard us mention it. We actually have an owner's engineer who keeps track of all of the projects. And so one of the goals that he reports on every week is making sure that once the LNG is connected, once everything is gas ready, the pipeline will be built. One of his main job is to make sure that all of those milestones meet up. So you don't want to have a pipeline built and then you don't have other infrastructure. But that is on its way as well. And the timeline for that is also on track.
For the Family Islands, I know that a number of agreements have been signed for renewables and LNG on the Family Islands. Have there been any plans put in place to upgrade the T&D infrastructure on those islands? And
Yes.
Some have miles way bigger than the Providence of
Yes.
infrastructure.
So let's, if we want to be very specific, each one of the independent power producers at the point of interconnection, we have a set of projects to align to make sure that they can get on the grid in terms of improving the T&D to ensure that the energy that is produced by the independent power producer, say that 3 times, actually has its way of getting on the grid. One of the most challenging islands, as you all know, is Eleuthera, and we actually have in the works to actually build transmission line all through, starting from the Roxanne plant all the way down into Benjamin Town. So there'll be a transmission line that will be built into that area.
The funds available to facilitate these upgrades, or is there a possible base rate tariff increase? That's
No, we
funded?
have the fund. We'll have the funds available to do those projects.
Now, some of the businesses on the Family Islands have been complaining about the economic impact of these power outages. Is BPL working with them to maybe suggest that on some days they use generators, or if it's possible, you're having issues with the system, maybe give them a heads up so that...
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we're doing right now is ahead of each event. So we would have just come out of July 4th for Harbor Island. And so we would have been on the ground from the Monday beforehand. Myself and the chief operating officer were on the ground from, actually, I got there Tuesday, he got there Sunday, but we were on the ground meeting with business owners and speaking to them specifically about their energy needs to try and make sure that we could hold load specifically on Harbor Island, because we knew that was going to be an issue for us. We looked at the yachts that were coming in. We met with the harbor master. So to answer your question, yes, our next stop is going to be Cat Island Regatta. So what we're doing now is we're sending an advanced team in. They will do an assessment just to make sure if there's anything that they can see from a generation or transmission, just to support the staff. And then we're going to make sure that the chief operating officer and another executive is on island. That's really important. It shows, one, that to the staff that's there, they're not in there by themselves. It provides that kind of emotional support, but also lets us see in real time if there's an issue that we can deal with as quickly as possible. But we think that sending an advanced team ahead of the event is, in fact, a way for us to get ahead of something that may occur. So yes, go ahead.
When can residents on the Family Island begin to feel the impact of these various power purchase agreements?
So we're really pleased to announce that EEA Energy, which has both Abaco and Eleuthera, they will be up. Their solar and battery energy storage will be up and running before the end of the year. If you fly over Abaco, if anyone has flown over Abaco recently, they would have seen all of the land that has been cleared for the solar. That plant should be up and running in October. And I recently would have visited Eleuthera to see the plant at Hatchet Bay, and that has all been cleared. All of the containers with the actual panels are there on the ground. So they're getting ready to go ahead and start in the installation of those. So when we say the land has been cleared, now that you can see it from the air when you fly over, you realize, one, it's a very large space, but that's what those facilities are for. They're for the solar and battery energy storage.
And finally, for me, if you indulge me quickly, there has been some noise from the union right as chair. What is your response to concerns about alleged interference by the board of directors as it relates to unceremoniously firing executives, union officials, etc.? Your response to that?
So, the board is here for corporate governance. And so as a part of all of our corporate governance, the things that we take care of is we work with the executives to find if there are persons in the organization, they'll come to us. But really, we're here for corporate governance. Okay?
Thank you very much.
All right.
That's the final question. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings our press briefing to a close. Thank you very much, everyone. And we will, of course, endeavor, especially on the BPL front, to give further updates on the upgrades and any information pertaining to situations or concerns that consumers may have. Thank you again, everyone. Good afternoon.